Hi everyone, it's Kirsty here from Uploans, and today we have Angie Roberts with us, who is going to give us a bit of insight into the world of using a buyer's agent. Angie, welcome. Thanks so much for coming along.
Thanks, Kirsty. Great to be here.
Excellent. Now, so that people know your background, do you want to tell us a bit
Mhm.
about where you're working, what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, certainly. So I run a buyer's agency called My Hobart Home Buyers Agents, and I started that back in 2020. I grew up in Tasmania, but had been working as a selling agent in Sydney for almost a decade. And so when I came home, it became very apparent that there wasn't a lot of support offered for buyers here in Hobart, which led me to start the business.
Amazing. And I know you've got a team working with you at the moment. So
Mhm.
how many of you actually work within the company there at the moment?
So on the ground as buyers agents, there's only two of us, myself and my colleague Suzette. So we've specifically chosen, I think, to keep it quite small and intimate. We like to be really sort of personable with our clients. So we do restrict the number of clients that we take on at any one time to make sure that we've really got time and energy to put into each individual search to make a difference and add value.
Awesome. And while you and I are new friends, Suzette, I've known for a while, and I can
Hmm.
attest to the fact that she is one of the loveliest human beings on the planet.
Yes, she is. Yeah, I'm very
All right.
lucky.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So why don't we start off with the very sort of general question of like, why would someone use a buyer's agent? It's not the
Mm.
most common way to buy a property. So
Hmm.
who would be the person that's most likely to use you and why, I guess, would be the main question.
Yeah, it's a really good question, but there's it's quite a varied response. I think different people use our service for different reasons. I mean, overall, when you sell a property, the majority of people are using a seller's agent to support them and represent them through that process. And from my perspective as a buyer, it makes sense to have equal representation. So yeah, so that basically you're getting the most out of that experience. So we have mainland-based buyers that obviously need someone locally on the ground for that local insight. Logistically, it makes the process a lot easier, and the process for purchasing property throughout Australia really does vary. So even if you've purchased properties in multiple cities before, we find a lot of our clients who come to Hobart are quite bewildered by the process here. And really appreciate that sort of local insight and knowledge to ensure that they're doing things the right way. And yeah, as I say, sort of aren't falling into the common sort of traps that many buyers do when they don't have the knowledge or support. The other key reason, obviously, is to make sure that you're not paying more for the property than you have to. We obviously are expert negotiators. This is what we do day in, day out. We know how to sort of assess value and get an understanding of what a property should be worth, and then we use our negotiation skills to make sure that our clients aren't overpaying, and they're buying the right property, but they're buying it at the right price.
Okay. So you help them find properties, you help them negotiate
Mm-hmm.
on it. Do you
Mm-hmm.
also put them in contact with relevant local specialists? So are you recommending conveyancers, building inspectors,
Yeah.
those sorts of people as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And they're probably the two main sort of service providers that we do need to connect our buyers to. So, yes, specifically in Tasmania, it's really important to do those pre-offer contractual checks because every offer does need to be submitted on a contract and signed. So the moment you put your offer in, you're sort of legally tied to that. So yeah, absolutely. We work closely with conveyancers down here to make sure that the necessary, sort of pre-contract checks are done. And likewise with building inspectors, whether or not that be done before an offer is submitted or having an offer that's subject to a building inspection, sorry, then we're facilitating all of those processes as well to make sure our buyers have the necessary protection that they need.
Awesome. And you're chatting with the agents all day, every day, much like we are.
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding that you're getting
Yes.
access to properties before they come on the market? Is that something that's happening at the moment in your marketplace?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that there are some buyers agents that, and we work with buyers agents all around the country, there are some that have
Mm,
good access to that, and then some are like, oh, it's a bit challenging at the moment. How are you finding that
yeah.
in the Hobart market?
Yeah, look, that's absolutely the ultimate game, getting that early exposure or getting access to the off-market properties so we can minimise the competition as much as possible. To answer your question, yes, we do, but we need to be very proactive in order to get that information. So it takes Suzette and I calling the agents, as you say, on a daily basis to let them know about the clients that we're working with and what their briefs are, and then following up the next week and the week after that as well. So they're generally happy to share that information. Obviously, we're working with qualified buyers and we help guide them along the process. So it tends to be quite sort of a streamlined process, and the agents enjoy working with us, but we do need to proactively be the ones generally picking up the phone and finding out about what they have coming up, which we're completely happy to do.
Yeah. Sometimes it does just take reminding the agents that you're out there with these buyers, doesn't it? Especially as the market's shifting like it is at the moment and going from a real seller's market to more of a balanced market in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And would you say
that's exactly right.
Yeah. Would you say that a buyer's agent is more for an owner occupier or more for an investor, or does it not matter? Are you great for both types of buyers?
Anyone basically. When we sign on a client, we get a really clear understanding of what their objectives are and what they're hoping to get from that property purchase. And obviously, the way we then go about it can be quite different, for an investor, where it's going to be less suburb specific and it's more about the numbers, versus an owner occupier where, certainly the property and everything that, sort of is important to them, is at the forefront. So the investor will probably be more numbers driven and will want to use our sort of expertise to find the right property in the right area to meet their objectives, and again ensuring that they get a really good price for it so that they are sort of maximising returns. Whereas the owner occupier, it is more about that property, and we have to sort of hunt really hard to find the right property that's going to meet all of their needs, but still we're taking the stress out of it for them. Totally. But they're leading lives, and sort of as you'd be aware, property searches can be all consuming. So being able to hand over a lot of that sort of groundwork to someone like ourselves is it means you can still have your weekends and but be able to progress with your property search without it sort of taking up too much time, stress or energy.
Because it can be. I always equate like people searching on realestate.com.au. It's almost like being drawn into a cult. It gets so embedded within you. I even have clients who bought 18 months or 2 years ago, but they're still checking realestate.com.au every day. And it's hard to know that you're seeing everything. It's hard to know that you're not missing out that stuff that's going off market. And the clients I've had that have used buyer's agents, they absolutely see the value. And you mentioned being that middle person in there and helping negotiate a price, which is fantastic. And I always say to people, I'm an ex-real estate agent and I love all of the agents that we deal with. This is nothing against real estate agents, but they're not acting for the buyer, are they? They're acting for the seller. So that's where you're stepping in and you're really being that person that's acting for the buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the agent's just doing their job essentially by trying to get the buyer to pay as much as possible. And certainly when it is, when it's an emotional purchase, they're almost trained to pick up on that connection that a buyer can have, and they will do what they can to take advantage of it, to obviously maximise the return for their vendor. So yes, by us kind of being able to keep those things in check, and be very pragmatic about the purchase, it means that you're not probably as inclined to pay more than you have to. We know the questions to ask, and we know the information that we need to try and get from the agent to make sure our offer is still as attractive as possible, to give our buyers the most success of securing the property. But we're doing it in a way where I guess silly decisions aren't going to be made, and that we can make sure that they are smart decisions, and it's not going to be something that they then regret, in months or years to come.
You're still operating with your heads as opposed to the buyers whose hearts really do get sometimes carried away. Will you do things like bid at auction for clients as well?
Yeah, we absolutely will. Here in Hobart, though, it's a very rare situation that we have properties that go to auction. So yeah, not, probably 95% of the property that's listed is with a guide price, with an offers over sort of situation. Sometimes we have expression of interest and tender campaigns as well. But yeah, it's generally a very unique property that an agent has trouble pricing, I guess, or potentially, some of sort of the more regional or farmland kind of properties that may go to auction. But yeah, by far the majority of our stock is via private treaty campaign. But absolutely, we're happy to attend, when the need arises.
Yeah. And obviously there's a cost for your service. And I always say to people, you should be willing to pay for a service that offers great value. And if you feel like you've got a buyer's agent who's a great negotiator and who's working for you, if someone's looking for an investment property, there may be an ability to claim back some of that cost. But if somebody's looking for themselves to buy their dream house and you're helping them, what are the key things that you wish that everyone who's considering using a buyer's agent knew about, I guess, the value involved in your service? We've mentioned negotiation, but what are the other key factors that would make someone go, okay, there's a cost associated with it, but here's why it's worth it every day of the week?
Yeah, I guess it is the time and the energy that we really put into each individual search. And that can be a long process depending on the kind of property that we're trying to find for our buyers. So I think, sort of the understanding that they are absolutely going to save time, even if they are locally, that we're out inspecting properties most days and we can rule a lot of them out. So they are saving time so that they can concentrate on their own profession or, their families or all those more important things. And then, as you say, negotiation is a big thing, but it's really making sure that they have the necessary protection that they need. And a buyer's agent will guide them through that whole process. So it's making sure that the clauses that you need in the contract to protect you are there, and that we do our very best to get those agreed. So that things that you might not think of up front can end up costing you dearly if you do make the wrong decision. And then just the other thing that I think is important, with it, we've touched on off markets and that, but having a buyer's agent will increase the exposure that you have to the properties available to you. So, whereby it might take you 6 months of scrolling through realestate.com to find the right property for you. Our network and our connections and the effort that we put into maintaining those will generally mean that we can find your property much sooner. So you can start enjoying it and getting on with your lives. And I think really there's a lot of value in that it doesn't consume your life for longer than what it needs to.
And sometimes much longer. In fact, I had a client who was looking to buy in Melbourne and they were pre-approved for 4 years. Then they engaged a buyer's agent and they had a contract within 6 weeks. And so I've seen that firsthand. That paralysis that sometimes happens when you're faced with so many different options, so many different avenues to get the information. Sometimes having that expert in place can be really helpful. Is there anything else you wish people knew about the process of using a buyer's agent? Something unusual or weird or unexpected, or have we pretty much covered it all?
I think we've pretty much covered it. I think just don't underestimate how different the process can be in different locations. I mean, even coming from Sydney, where I was a selling agent, like they're buying a property in Sydney to buying a property in Hobart or anywhere in Tasmania for that matter. You are back to being a novice. How you first time you purchased a property, and it's really hard to make good decisions and to feel confident in those decisions when you just don't have the knowledge or the expertise. So I'm not even saying that you need to go via a buyer's agent to get that. If you're willing to put the time and effort and to speak with sort of agents and conveyancers and all of the other sort of experts within the industry, you can still arm yourself with the necessary information. But just because you've purchased 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 properties before, if you are buying in a location that's not known to you, do your homework. It's really important.
Perfect. And on that note, I mean, not everyone is buying in a budget that warrants using a buyer's agent, and not everyone, probably in your case, not everyone's going to be able to get in and see you. Is there any, without giving away any trade secrets, is there any secret sauce that you wish every buyer knew about? You know, a piece of software that might be helpful, or something to look for on inspections, or something to make sure they didn't forget? Is there any one piece of advice that you wish you could empower to every buyer out there?
Look, I mean, I think it does come down to common sense, really. You know, get out, you know, even before you're ready to purchase, get out to the open homes and start inspecting the homes in your areas. And then you're going to get a really good feel for what a property is worth. So when you're ready to start that search, you know, you're not relying on the agent telling you the comparable sales and why this one's better than the one that's sold down the road. You're going to have seen it, and you're going to be able to potentially pick holes in what they're saying. But get a really good sense of the property that you have interest in, what it is worth. The other good thing about inspecting properties and going to the open for inspections is you will start to get a bit of a relationship with the agents. And if they're the key agents selling in the areas, if they're good at their job, they will service buyers to.
We have just muted you there, Angie, for some reason. There we go. You're unmuted. We heard most of that.
Sorry about that. So if you know, actually meeting the agents face to face and trying to build a relationship with them, if they are agents that are, you know, servicing buyers to an extent, then at least you've got some chance of being kept up to date about what they've got coming on. I don't know about all locations, but certainly in Hobart, agents down here are big on social media. So just liking their Facebook pages and their Instagram pages and things like that, you will often get little sneak peeks of properties that are coming up. So that can be another good way. If you're not, you know, going to be sitting down in front of you, you know, or on the phone all day calling like we are, at least tagging a few pages can sometimes help with giving you a bit of insight.
Absolutely. And I think people do forget how much influence the sales agent has over which offer the owner of the property accepts as well. So if a client is pre-approved with their finance and, you know, their broker or their banker can call up the agent and say, absolutely, they're pre-approved, that's really helpful. If the person has a high confidence that that deal is going to come off, sometimes that's actually even a deal that gets across that's a little bit less in price if they don't feel like the person's finances come through. Or it's amazing how much having really that relationship helps, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that always forms part of our offer submission, that, you know, as much information as I can give to paint my buyers as being very qualified and very genuine, you know, so that the agent has the ability and the confidence to pass that information on to the vendor to guide them in one way or one direction or another, as you say. So I think the fact that they're working with a buyer's agent, there is a certain level of confidence anyway that it is a genuine buyer, because people do pay us an engagement fee. So they know they're not just shopping around. There is genuine intent to purchase, which helps. But even, if you're not through a buyer's agent, give that information to the agent, you know, because it will help you and it will give you a better chance of being a successful purchaser.
Yeah, absolutely. All good advice for people out there looking to buy. Now, Angie, if someone is looking at buying in the Hobart area and they want to reach out to yourself or Suzette, is the best way for them to do that through your website?
Yeah, well, certainly all the contact details are on the website with our emails and phone numbers. So the website is myhobarthome.com.au. Would certainly love to help. And just any information that you'd like on the market or purchasing in Hobart, we're happy to have a conversation.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time. I know it'll be helpful, not just to people looking at buying in Hobart, people buying all over the place, and those who are wondering whether they should use a buyer's agent. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Wonderful. You're more than welcome. Thanks so much, Kirsty. Appreciate it.